Welcome back to Get Nisty, the series that breaks compliance out of the checkbox trap and turns it into a real security advantage. No fluff, no FUD, just practical strategies to make compliance work for your MSP. I'm Jared Kasner, and I'm joined as always by my co-founder of Blacksmith InfoSec and co-host of Get Nisty, Michael Zabarski. Today we're following up on a conversation we started last week with Josh Hobein from Centrex IT. If you missed that episode, please go back in your feed. Season 2, episode 12 is a great place for you to get started and hear the first half of that conversation. And now, without further ado, we'll jump right back into the conversation we were having with Josh. All right, so let's go ahead and pivot into the second set of topics for today. And we're going to jump into some, again, the first question really here is, this is from an MSP who says, I have some clients that are really gung-ho and move fast on security and others that just completely stall out. They stop responding to my emails, phone calls, whatever, at least when it comes to the security topic. And I only hear from them when something's broken. How do I actually change that mindset or unstick the people that are stuck and get them moving?
You want me to take that, or do you want to go, Michael? I mean, I guess I'm here, so
Yeah, you're here. Mike's always here. I hear from Mike all the time. Let's hear from Josh.
All right. Sounds good. So, the advice to that is really like look at your base package offering. Is your minimum security requirement should be baked into it, so that way it's not a conversation of you should have this, right? Whatever like your standard offering is should have those security, because then at that point, once they're on that, the things you were talking about are some kind of higher level, maybe some projects, maybe some compliance, but you're at least not arguing over what things that you deem are essential and banging your head against the wall, right? If I have a client on my stack that is, okay, like they don't want to do anything else, I at least know, cool, like they're covered, we're lowering their risk. Yes, we can lower their risk more by looking at these various things, but I can at least sleep at night knowing that I have the proactive and the reactive, just looking at it from a very simplistic view of like the layered security, level one, the human, like let's get them trained, right? So we have some sort of security awareness training. And now, my advice on that is don't just, assign the training and call it good. Like you have to be a little bit more proactive with it, but whatever, we'll get there, right? Layer one, human, let's educate them. Let's teach them not to, hopefully not to click on links or fall for scams, right? But we're humans. So they're going to get, 80, 100 emails a week or these scams, right? So by education, we're hoping they don't do it. But again, we're humans. It's going to do that. So the next thing is technical controls. We're going to harden the environment. We're going to provide things that are hopefully removing those or reducing those. So instead of 80 decisions that we have to make a week, we're hopefully going down to 0, but let's be realistic. It's, 1 to 10. So again, going off of we're humans, that's that third layer of something is going to get through. Someone's going to be a human and click on something. So that MDR, that, hey, when something happens, we need to be able to detect it as quickly as possible and respond as quickly as possible and limit that blast radius. We got that, right? So those layers are in your base security stack. So it's not like, oh, well, you should have had this. And, if we only had this, we could provide the better security. No, it's all in, right? And then it's not as much of a headache, right? Like all clients should have a disaster recovery policy and incident response plan, all of that stuff, right? But if somebody can't do that or they're ignoring the emails, I can at least sleep at night knowing that they have a good set of base security, that they're going to be protected and have that lower amount of risk.
Yep. No, and you're exactly right. The phishing emails are getting better. Right? AI is making it easier for criminals to craft something. Like it used to be really easy. You could look for misspelled words and I can just ignore that, right? You could look for bad logos, but it's with AI, it's getting easier and easier for the attackers to send out the phishing emails.
You can still look
and it's a numbers game, right? It's if they send out 100 million emails, which is not that many in the grand scheme of things, but 100 million emails, and they get 99.99% of people hit report spam or ignore it. That still means 0.01% of people. That's 10,000 people. And if they get $1,000 per person who clicks on that link, there's $10 million right there. Right. So it does not like the numbers are in the attacker's favor and it's so easy for them to attack. So it's and I don't say that to scare people, right? It's like, it's a state of reality. And so if you're not doing the things to control and protect your people and keep that education, to your point, right? Like teach them, here's what to look for. Here's how to spot the fish that is not just look for the misspelled words, but like, let's actually think about this. If you're not putting in some sort of email filtering and, or, you know, it drives me crazy as I send out email marketing blasts. Like, I want to know how many people are opening my emails. Well, when so many MSPs are doing great things and have those filtering tools in place that automatically opening it up and checking the URLs and making sure that it's not going to malicious content. Now I'm getting it the second I send out an email, or at least the second it lands in somebody's inbox, it's getting open rates and click rates are going through the roof. And so I have to actually filter those out, right? So from the marketer in me says, yeah, I hate this, but like the security professional in me says, this is amazing, I love it, right? And so, and it's great. The higher, as time progresses, the higher percentages are making me really happy and sad at the same time, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, there's still stuff you can look for in emails, right? Like you can still look for M dashes and find ways that AI has scripted those emails.
Yeah, I think AI is trained on me because I've used M dashes for decades, and so anyhow, so you know, as you're dealing with clients who are maybe less interested, like where can your MSP help drive things versus needing to rely on the client leadership and getting them on board?
Well, that's where it goes again to just building your, whatever your non-negotiable is into that stack. But the other side of that is, again, aligning your client to a framework. It's very easy to do if they need to follow HIPAA guidelines. Okay, cool. Here are HIPAA controls or CMMC, but if they don't, then, you're getting your stack. But again, that's where it goes back to having a framework so you can show, hey, this isn't me just trying to sell you stuff. These are best practices. And maybe your framework you could be simple, like cyber insurance. If you look at a questionnaire from cyber insurance, what things is that insurer asking? So bam, that's your framework. Take one of their questionnaires and make sure that your tools and offerings align to check those boxes. If you want something even easier, there's like a Cyber Essential 8 that's available in Australia. But have something so you can point to it and show, hey, like these are, again, industry best practices, guidelines, things that we should be doing. And we need to, increase your maturity, lower the risk, have the business conversation, the dollars and cents and things like that. Obviously, you have to tailor your message depending on the technical level of each client. But again, it still comes back to me of whatever your non-negotiables are, have it in your base. So you're not even just having those conversations where you're banging the head against the wall. And there will be some clients that, hey, well, in order to do that, I have to raise rates, and that kind of gets into a whole thing. And again, I understand that we're in a privileged spot where, we can turn clients away if they're too big of a risk. If you're just starting out or if you're much smaller, it is a lot harder to do, but you have to ask yourself as a business owner, is that a risk that you are willing to take on, on behalf of your client? They don't understand. You're going to be the one that has to deal with the fallout of that if something or when something does happen, right? So making sure your MSAs are pretty ironclad and you're willing to take on that risk. Again, it's all a business decision. The client that you have made the business decision to have the increased risk. So you, as well as the business owner, have to also make a risk decision on whether to keep them on or not.
Yeah, and you bring up a really interesting point. This is going back to your 3 a.m. conversations. I had one last week that was probably after too many old fashions. I can't remember who exactly I asked the question of and got this answer, but the question was, how do you know when your MSP is successful? Like that's the essential aspect of it. And I think the best answer I got was, you're successful when you can say no to a prospect, right? You've reached a point of maturity or growth where you can actually turn business away instead of having to take everything that comes through the door. And so, and I wish I could remember, I maybe one too many old fashions before that conversation, but like, I wish I could remember who it was that said that to give them credit for what they said. But that's really, at the end of the day, that's what we're all striving for, is to build a strong enough and big enough business that we can actually turn away the potentially problem clients. Now, some people are going to turn those potentially problem clients away much earlier in their career, even before they have maybe really realized the full financial success they would like to realize. But that, again, is everybody has to make the risk decisions. And the risk-based decisions for your MSP are not just about the tools, but it's also about the clients and which clients you're willing to accept and how much risk you're willing to accept from a client that just does not care about security at all.
Agreed. I think that's a really great. I do like that. Is like, hey, when you can turn away business. I mean, that's looking at like discovery calls. At this point, it's not so much. The whole point of it is we're trying to disqualify you almost as a client, and that's like not in a mean way or anything, but like we want to make sure that we're a good fit for a partner. And a lot of the times that we aren't. So when you get to that point, I like that. I like that as the determining factor.
Yep.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because at some point, like the amount of headaches and everything that comes with a client who's not a good fit for you, just it doesn't outweigh the income that you're going to receive from them. And we have the similar conversations when we talk to MSPs, where sometimes we get on a call and the MSP is really immature, and we're like you're not ready to do this right now. Like, we'd love to chat with you. We'd love to show the product. We'd love to have a conversation. We'd love to help you get there in general. But a lot of times we have to have that hard conversation of, look, like, you're just not ready today to do this. Because if you're arguing with clients about turning on MFA, you're not rolling out compliance. Right.
Certainly not rolling out a CMMC offering to help your clients get to CMMC compliance if you can't even get them to turn on MFA, right? So now, unfortunately, it's not stopping some MSPs, and it's also not stopping some vendors from selling solutions to help MSPs. But at the end of the day, like, know where you are. Cool. So, Mike, you want to ask the next question for us?
Yeah.
This is a very good segue here.
Yeah. So some MSP clients still see security and compliance as optional. And how do we change that? So security, I think you've already kind of addressed at least, Josh, as far as just bake the base of the non-negotiables into the base offering, and then you don't need to change that. But the compliance piece, at least from what I've heard from you, is still important, not baked into the base offering necessarily. And so how do you have those conversations to get people to say, hey, let's build out a more holistic compliance security program that's based on whether it's CIS or whether it's NIST or HIPAA or whatever? Because I know, like, doctors' offices, a lot of times HIPAA stops at the point of where you sign the HIPAA disclosure forms at the beginning, and like nothing else is done for HIPAA. And so how do you kind of, as an MSP, start having those conversations with your clients of, cool, you're already on our base offering, we have the tooling in place to keep you secure, but now we really need to get your executives on board here so we can actually run a risk program for you, start talking about risk management, talk about compliance frameworks, talk about conducting user audits, the whole 9 yards, right?
So again, it does kind of go back to, and this is how we operate, is it's just built in. So the like I said, with our cybersecurity maturity model, and feel free to reach out to me and throw my LinkedIn or whatever in the show notes. I will gladly give you our framework, but I've built kind of a compliance made easy, really, where it's based off of insurance and CIS, and kind of made it into like a 5-step process that's easy to understand and evolves over time. But I'm aligning all of our clients to a framework. And one of the first times I meet with them, I make that explanation of like, hey, any security program needs to adhere to a framework. And by partnering with us, like, now you have a framework, and do the security assessment to show this is where they are, the gaps. And obviously by partnering with us, these are the controls that we check off, but really kind of empowering them and showing them, there are things that we can't take the responsibility for. So you need to have like a designated security officer and go through these. And again, with our base stack, we are protecting them, but we need to talk about policies and how we can improve, because you can never be, secure enough. And looking at, again, there's so many different ways of doing this, but the cyber insurance is a good driving one of, in order to get it, we're lowering your risk, and then we're transferring the risk, and that we need to test that. So doing like a kind of a soft IR, or calling the cyber insurance provider as we're building out this incident response plan, because when something does happen, we need to be prepared, and we don't want to have a mess of like, well, what do we do first? And what we say is, it's your business. You know how it operates, makes money. We can ask the right questions, but in the time of an actual, incident or fire, you don't want your MSP making these decisions for you. We need to figure this out ahead of time as far as what data to restore first, the servers or restoring. What we need to get stood up to work with you guys so you can continue to make money and operate? And then, who do we need to call? Like, we don't want to be wasting time looking for the insurance policy and all of this stuff. So it's just kind of like having that preparedness. You can do your sports analogy or whatever it is, right? Like whatever the favorite sports team is, they don't just go onto the field on Sundays and play, right? They're constantly practicing. They have their playbook, and that's initially what we're doing, is building those. So it's really informing and educating the client, and then empowering them to follow these and increase it. And it's not always easy. Some clients, they don't care. They don't give a shit about compliance. And that's where, again, we built into that framework to show them we're meeting these, this is where you were before, this is where you are now with us, and then this is where we should look to be to fully lower the risk.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the things that you said, Josh, was making sure that, they know who to call, who their cyber insurance provider is. A lot of people that we talk to know who their broker is, but have no clue what the breach hotline is for their cyber insurance provider, stuff like that. But the other piece that a lot of times people miss is all of their contracts usually will have some sort of contractual obligations for breach notifications, and knowing what those are, so that when you're heads down dealing with the incident, you're also not going to find yourself in breach of contract because you haven't made those notifications in a timely fashion. And so, again, adding that to the documentation to say, hey, we have this contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever hospital where we have to notify them within 24 hours, making sure you're aware of all those clauses as well.
Yep. Another thing you said that really resonated with me, Josh, is when you use that framework, whether it's CIS, CSF, Trustmark, I don't care what the framework is. When you have a framework, and you do that initial gap assessment that says, here's where you are today. Now you have a couple things out of it. The first one is a roadmap. You talked about the plan of actions and milestones of the POEM earlier, right? So there's your roadmap that says what you're going to do. But that also allows you to show progress along the way, right? Because otherwise your clients will come to you and say, but Josh, you told me I was secure. Well, no, what I told you was we were going to tackle this. When you can instead say, here's your percentage completion, and completion I hate with compliance, but at least here's your progress, right? Here's the progress we had today, and here's where we're going over the next quarter. Here's how we're going to help you, and we're going to make sure we're aligning the progress that we're making towards your business initiatives, right? So we're going to talk about alignment of compliance and security to your business initiatives, but I'm also showing you that we're going from let's say 46% to 53% over the next quarter, but that also that gives you an indication that there's still more work to do, but it also tells you or gives you a framework for being able to talk to them to say, hey, we had evidence for MFA a year ago. We don't have a continuous compliance tool in place. And so until we get that, now we have to capture the evidence. And so there are some things that are going to essentially fall off. And so we're bringing those back in because we're going to take new evidence. And so there's sort of that progression of percentage completion. But then there's also something that, to your point about Trustmark, and what's really valuable about that is that it's not just a binary yes or no. It's all right, I have SMS-based MFA turned on for my identity provider is maybe a 0 or a 1 out of 5. All the way up through, I have passkeys and WebAuthn enabled for and enforced for every one of my cloud platforms. Cool. There's your 5, right? So I've got maturity levels within that. But look, I think we're just about out of time for today. Josh, I really appreciate you coming on. Any closing questions or advice you want to give to an MSP before we wrap for the day?
I mean, yeah, the biggest thing I say is align to a framework. I don't care which one you pick, how you do it. Again, if you need a simple one, I'm more than happy to just, give you my homework and say copy it. But don't just, make sure that your stack aligns to the framework, that you're not just, piecemealing together stuff just because Reddit told you. Really kind of have that full solution and align to the framework. So, again, not only are you helping your customer through it, but what products, offering services that you can do to increase the maturity, yourself and to the client.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate all your time today. Mike, how can somebody get their own questions answered if they like to?
Hop over to blacksmithinfosec.com/ask and submit your questions there, and we'll have Josh back to answer more questions if Jared and I don't know the answers. or we'll address them as we get them.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yep. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Get misty.